Okay. So I did mention in the group that the live session today will be on the materials, and the things that I will cover are 10 common mistakes people make when it comes to materials creation. And after that, I will review your homework and give some feedbacks. And lastly, I will give you some you can call that some secrets or some formula to create very fast and good material. Okay, so I think we will start with the first topic, that is the 10 most common mistake when that everybody makes when it comes to material creation. Not only the beginners but also the advanced user can make. So I did record a video so I can focus on talking and showing all the examples, and we save a lot of time because to record that video, it took me like maybe 3 hours. But when going to the live session, I want to save some time for you guys, so you can watch and follow my um, uh, explanation in a shorter time. Okay, so here it goes. So this video will sum up on the most common mistake when people comes to material creation. This is from my experience, like when I'm doing the work, when I'm training for my student, when I'm training for um, the members of my team. I see a lot of mistake that happens again and again, and I decided to make this video to sum up on the mistake and how to deal with each of the mistake. And I really hope that this video will help you guys um, to avoid all of these mistakes, because that would help you to really make some realistic and good materials in a good way, in a faster way. So I think that's enough for the introduction. This is the first time I'm doing this type of YouTube stream, so yeah, I don't know if it's gonna work well, but I did try my best. So let's watch this. Okay, so we have 10 different mistakes here. Each mistake comes with a different photos of examples, and I'm going to review one by one. So the first mistake is about UV, wrong UV, UV in a wrong direction, or UV without randomness. That is all the mistake related to the UV. So when it comes to UV, people usually think about UVW map, but that's not what it's all about. UV is the way you apply the textures on the geometry of objects, how you show the textures, how you display the textures on its surface. So there's a couple of rules that you need to follow when you UV an object. First, you want it to be in a realistic side. You don't want to mess up with the side because that will can ruin your image. For example, if you UV on a wall with a brick textures, but bricks is at a wrong scale. It's way bigger or way smaller than what we see in real life. Then um, yeah, that's crap, and you cannot end up with good material or good render. Um, the rules number two is about the um, so the side, correct side, and the second rules is about the direction of the UV. Um, I'm going to show you some example. A lot of okay, about direction of the textures. We often see this mistake. Literally, I see like 100 cases like this. Um, so in real life, we can notice that the textures, it is kind of follow the direction of the geometry. For example, the wood grain in real life, it will follow the length of the wooden part. For example, this is correct direction. This is kind of correct direction, but this is in a incorrect direction. The wood texture should be horizontal, not vertical like this. It should follow the length of the wooden door frames, right? So this is not correct. This is wrong. So the reason of this, the reason behind this is sometimes it's because of the lazy artists that only apply a simple UVW map for the whole door and end up with something like this. There's also another reason that for the beginner, especially the beginner, they don't know about this, they don't notice this, and they don't understand uh, this mistake, so they kind of end up with something like this. But anyway, wrong texture direction can lead to something that is unacceptable because it doesn't reflect what happens in real life. So if we see a lot of doors in real life, we can see the difference, and we can see that this is not correct. This is not what happened in real life, and instantly we get a not good feeling for this image. Okay, and yeah, that is a small detail, but sometimes it's really annoying. For example, you can look at all of these door frames here, and all of them are uh, wrong direction. It should be vertical like this, not horizontal, and it is now. Okay, so yeah, okay. The UV can be wrong in a different way. For example, in this case, we see a lot of ties at the bar, but the marble grain, they come across on the ties, and this is not this is something unusual if you look at this in a logic way, because all of these ties, they are different parts uh, of the stone, So when you put them together like this, it is very hard to have all of these grains across these ties. You know, this is very strange if we can compare to a real life reference. Okay, because in real life, it doesn't work this way. So again, this is a mistake. Is coming from the laziness, or is coming from the because we don't know about this, so we made the mistake. Okay, so we need to UV these ties in a more um, what to say, in a more complex way, not very complex, but to reflect what happens in reality, and we will end up with something, yeah, look more usual, look familiar with our eyes. Yeah, remember that our eyes are very sensitive. Sometimes we don't know what is the problem in the image. We don't know yet. We don't know it in the details, but uh, we can notice that we know that there's something wrong, there's something unusual, something not familiar with our eyes in the image. Okay, and we don't like that. Okay. Okay. Another way of UV mistakes is something that is um, repeated like this. We see a lot of wooden on the ceilings, and we see that the texture is kind of repeating all over the place. This is another mistake when it comes to UV. And you can see that there's another form of mistakes here. For example, these wooden planks, they have the texture, the wood textures, but the textures are being stretched too much. You can see that it's stretched too much, and um, and the texture looks not so sharp and clear anymore. It looks kind of blurry and very stretched. Okay, we can compare with the reference and see the problem. Yeah, this is the reference. It's way different. Okay, the problem of texture running across all of the different elements, a different part of the cabinet, and this is the problem of wrong direction of the textures. So you can see that the textures here and here are in the correct direction, but on the side we can see that it is still horizontal, while it should be in vertical direction. And the problem is bigger here. The texture should follow the circle or the cylinders here, but it didn't. We can see all the direction here is having a big problem. This is an example of correct direction but wrong scale. We can see that this wood texture is for something very big, but it is now applying to a small object. I can tell that from the cups here. The cups of something like powder and and cornflakes, I think. So it shouldn't be that big. Yeah, the wood texture should be way smaller because this is the whole object here is a small object. Okay. Another example of the problem that the texture running across all the planks, okay, in a continuous way, and it making the whole wood floor looking like the same wood. Um, if we look at this from a farther angle, we can see the problem clearly, and I will show you later. Another wrong direction examples here. So actually the texture should follow the geometry, but it doesn't. And this is an example of wrong UV that leads to stretch and stretch textures here. You can see that it looks normal on the surface here, but at the rounded corners, we can see that it is kind of stretching too much, and yeah, it's not good. Okay. So here again, we can see that the wood floor before, but at a further distance. So now we can hardly see the planks. We can hardly tell the planks here because it looks like the same, like a very big flat surface that apply a texture, a wood texture on it. It doesn't look like the wood floor is contributed from many different planks, but it looks like a united object, and that's the problem here. Another problem that come with the UV is the seam. We can see the seam very clearly here. Yeah, seam here, and it looks really ugly. Really ugly. Okay. So basically, when it comes to fabrics and clothes and something like pillows or sofa, we we often not use the UVW map, but instead of that, we use unwrap UVW to UV the objects. And basically, when we have some models that we or some assets we download from 3D Sky, from Motion or any other kind of model or asset libraries, they when they model the objects like this sofa or these pillows, they already unwrap them. So so we only need to change the tiling of the pictures. I see a common mistake of beginners that they apply a UVW map to surface or objects like this. On the fabrics object, they apply UVW, and that is um, wrong. And because basically they already have the unwrapped UVW, and you just need to change the tiling. But when you apply UVW map, which is only um, we should use the UVW map for something like box or some hard surface, but for objects like all of these pillows and sofa, the UVW map is not a good choice. You will end up with something like this. Yeah, with some seam, ugly seam across the surface. Okay. Um, okay. So in this example, most part is in correct direction. Just this small wooden part is in a incorrect direction. Yeah, this part should be in a vertical direction, not horizontal like this. So you can see that I'm pretty picky and then care about small details. Um, at least example, but really the all of the small details will make the difference at the end of the day. So I want you guys to notice that and to pay your attention to the very small detail if they appears in your render. Okay, another problem of seam um, on the surface. Seam on the seam. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot of problems when it comes to UV. It can be wrong side, wrong direction. Um, Textures goes across the on the surface, which it shouldn't be like that. Uh, Seam or textures being too stretched, many different problems. So I'm going to show you how to UV in a good way and to avoid all of these problems. Okay. So to test the materials, I use a simple HDI from I don't know where I downloaded, but it is very small, something like 1 megabytes. So it is really fast. I apply that HDI using Corona bitmap, and I plug it into the scene environment of Corona render setup, and that's be ready for the interactive and test the material. Okay, so I will create the first material for the door here and show you how to quickly change the direction. But before that, I think I should tell you about the correct way to do the UVW map. Okay, I start with a wood texture using something like color correction because I don't like the color of the wood texture for now. It is way too serif. So deserif a little bit and change the gamma, basically lower the gamma so we have a better color, I think so. Okay, so apply and show the textures in the viewport. Okay, so now we apply the UVW map. Okay, so I often see people change these parameters, the length, width, height, when they use the UVW map. And I was so used to that, but then again, I found a better solution because when you use this method, there will be many kind of inconvenience thing that will come because you have to deal with three dimension while your pictures are only two dimension, and that is I don't know why we had to do that. And then uh, because you have to change this on the three dimension, it is often lead to maybe wrong scale or the textures getting too much stretch. So I decided to change to real one scale, which is way easier and more simple. You only need to instead of changing the tiling and the length, width, height, uh, yeah. Sometimes I see people change the length, width, height, and then they change the tiling as well, and they mess up with like 5 different parameters, and it can be a mess when we're doing something like that. So you can actually change the real one scale and only control the textures by the real dimension here. Using this method, you have to guess the dimension of the width and the height of the textures in real life. For example, I guess this is 1.5 meters for the width and 1 meter for the height. And then I go to UVW map, and all I need to do is click on real world map side, and boom, that's it. The wood textures is now applied in the objects in a correct dimension, correct scale. Yeah, you can see. So I strongly recommend to use this method of real scale in most of the case. I say most of the case because you will find eventually there's some very special case when we see that to use real scale is kind of difficult. Okay, so when it comes to EVW map, you can change the alignment to change the direction overall, and yeah, I think that pretty basic stuff. Everybody knows about it. You can also change the zip mode, uh, basically move or rotate. Don't scale because if you scale, you will ruin all the things that we set up here that are related to dimensional scale. Okay, so I did rotate 90 degrees, so I have most of the objects that has the correct UV direction. Now we only need to deal with the upper part and the bottom part that need to have horizontal direction, the wood texture. So I will select them. I'll select them and add another UVW map. I choose box and ribbons map size, and that's it. Okay. Yeah, now you can see that it is in correct direction now. Okay, pretty common and basic example of how to UV objects at the correct direction. Now this is very basic stuff. You may find it pretty boring, but yeah, I will start with something really easy and getting more advanced in the next example. So yeah, in the next example, I kind of reproduce some kind of cabinets, kitchen cabinets, and this time I will use a marble texture. Okay, I search for marble texture, I download a nice one, and then I apply to the object using the same method of ribbon, and you can see the problem. The marble grain still running across the different slab, and that is not a good thing. So we can use the same method as the door here. We select the objects, go to we convert to editable poly first to apply the UV, and then we select some elements here and give them different UVW. We still ribbon scale, so the scale is still remain the same, but yeah, but we only change the displace, so it will look more. It look better in a more natural way. Okay, really easy. And then I notice a small seam here, and this can be solved by moving the displace just a little bit. Okay. Now we come to another example. We have some kind of wooden, wooden beams on the ceiling. This time I use another wood texture, not this. Okay, I use this kind of textures. UVW box will map size, changing the alignment. So okay, sometimes changing the alignment is not enough, so you have to rotate the gizmo. Okay, 90 degrees. Yeah, here we go. Then again, we see the problem. If we look from this side, it is good, very good. But if we look from the side, we can see that it is now repeating. Okay, let me delete some of them so we can see the problem clearer. Okay, you see that? All of the repeating textures here. So actually we can use the same method as we did with the doors and the cabinets, but here we have many beams here, so we can use another way which is much faster. That is the Corona UVW randomizer. So you plug the original texture to it. This kind of Corona UVW randomizer, as its names, it will help us to randomize the UVW. Okay, all you need to do is change the U offset and V offset and change the mode from instant to mask element. Mask element, which yeah, because we have many beam here and each beam is a mask element. Okay, so basically I use U offset and V offset. You can change the W rotation, U scale and V scale as well, but I rarely use these, especially in this case because the wood texture they have a defined direction, so when you rotate them, it will looks not very good. You can use the U scale or V scale, but in this case I use the real one scale, so I don't want to mess with the scale. I don't want each beam has a different scale in terms of UV. Okay, so I just need to change the U offset from 0 to 100, and the same for the V offset. And yeah, that's it. Very easy. Problem solved. Now you can see the randomness of UV between all of these beams. Pretty easy. So the Corona UVW randomizer really helps a lot, and it comes from the Corona version 4 or version 5. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly, but it's really a good thing because you can replace all of the if we don't have the Corona UVW randomizer, we may have to use the I believe that in 3 Smart there's a modifier that very similar to this function, but for now I forget the name. But using Corona UVW randomizer is kind of faster and simpler. Okay, so now I will show you how to handle this kind of objects, how to UV them in a proper way so we don't get any kind of stretching too much of the textures. Okay, so basically I have an object like this. I create a deformation using the polymodeling, so we have some curvy surface like this. This kind of surface is a problem if we use any kind of UVW box, because you will end up with the textures being tear apart like this. Okay, the problem is very annoying and very noticeable. So what can we do here? Okay. Actually, we can solve this pretty easy by using the a special map called Corona Chip Planner. Okay, Corona Chip Planner is a great map, and you can use it to create many different interesting effects. For this example, we only use it to solve the problem of the UV. So basically, you will plug the horizontal textures into textures map X, Y, and Z. Um, the other parameters you can leave by default. Basically, you can change the amount, but 0.5 is good enough in this case. Um, about the scale, we have a scale here in the Karachi planner that is something similar to real one scale. So basically, you will set the size of textures here. That is 2 meters in this case, and then um, instead of using real one scale in the textures, okay, we don't use it anymore, and we change the tiling back to 1 because the scale is already defined by the Corona chip planner here. So we don't need to define it again inside the texture. So we leave it as the default tiling 1 by 1. And we can see the results here. The problems has been solved very nicely. The thing that we should notice here is the tiling. Which tiling we should use in different case. In this case, very simple because it's a square texture. The width and the height uh, is the same, so you can use the tiling 1 and 1. But for the other case where the texture is not a square but a rectangle, you have to change the tiling. For example, if I use the texture, the wood texture before, okay, and I will clone the Karachi planner and start again. So as you see, the scale here is only 1 parameters. Okay, so you need to change the tiling in the bitmap because it is not a square, it is a rectangle with a width double side of the height. So in this case, you need to double the tiling of the height in order to have a square here. In order to this is we do this so when we preview the texture, we see a square with no problem of scale or distortion. Okay, If we leave it by default one by one, we can see that the texture is stretched in horizontal way or vertical way. But so we need to change the tiling. So we have zero distortion here. That's the point. Okay. So this method, this CORONATOR planner can apply to any other kind of complex curvy surface. For example, the statue, um, the any kind of sculpting surface. You can use this method. It will work and it will give you very nice results without having to unwrap the object. Yeah, very useful. Okay, now come up to this object. Obviously, we have a not pretty UV here, and I'll show you how to solve that using unwrap UVW. So if you use UVW box and driven scale as usual, you will end up with the wrong direction, and then maybe you will end up with some scene problem. And direction problem. Okay. If you haven't used Unwrap UEW before, I strongly recommend you to watch like some pretty basic videos about Unwrap because it is very necessary if you want to really control your texture, your UV, and your material. It's very necessary. Um, In this case, I will only use some kind of very basic stuff relating to unwrap just to fix the problem of this very particular object. Okay, so I will uh, use a technique called wrap along SP line because this is kind of a cylinder object. So I did convert it to editor poly and select and create SP line from the edge of the optics of the cylinder. Okay, I select and I create on create shape from selection. Okay, linear. Okay, so we have SP line that will be like a guideline that will help us to unwrap later. Okay, you unwrap, you use a simple operation to delete on the uh, auto sims, and then you separate the whole objects into different parts. Okay, this. Let's select and break them into different parts, and then yeah, you can see the wrap here, wrap along SP line, and then you pick SP line that we created before, and you have it already unwrapped. And what you need to do is to display the checker map to check the distortion and then scale to uh, to reduce the distortion. Okay, basically, we don't want the distortion here. We want all the square to be square, not rectangle. We want the checker to be square. Okay. To make sure that the texture is not distort in any direction. And we do that again for the rest. Select them, wrap along SP line, select the SP line, adjust the vertex if necessary, and then do the same. Okay, so this is the results. Yeah, you can also rotate the unwrap, so we can end up with something like this. Okay, you can see now the picture is following the circle. Yeah, you can rotate them as well. Okay. Now the object is having a much better UV. Okay. And all the objects like the chairs and sofas and pillows should be unwrapped when it comes to UV. You should use one wrap. Okay, now the problem of seam, we can solve that using Photoshop. Okay, so open textures, you filter offset to define the seams, and then you can use the Shift F5 on your keyboard. That is the fill container aware, and it will automatically solve on the seams here. As you can see, another way is to use what to say, the healing brush tool. The healing brush tool. Okay, maybe too fast. Sorry, I have lost the Photoshop part. But anyway, you can deal with the seam inside Photoshop and solve that pretty easily using content aware, fill, or brush healing tool. Now the next problem, the next mistake. So we have finished the first mistake when it comes to material. That is the UV, wrong UV, wrong side, wrong direction, and some tips and tricks to solve them. And yeah, there's a lot in terms of UV, like the correct way to UV in different situations. So I hope that the first mistake um, can can uh, can help you to understand and to get the importance of the UV and how to treat your UV in a correct way, because the UV is really important. But I see a lot of people underestimating it. and if you don't have good UV, then your image or your material cannot be good. Okay, coming up next with the next mistake, that is the imperfection. The imperfection here is a thing that really contribute to the realism of the modeling and the materials. And you can see in this example, everything is pretty clean and perfect. Um, the road here, the street here, and the curves uh, and all the ties here, they look pretty perfect, clean, and yeah. But this is not something we see in real life. We see the street pictures with a lot of dirt and variation, and the curves with some kind of I don't know what to say, but I call all of them as imperfection. So the thing is, we see a lot of imperfection in real life, but all the things that we created using 3D, they are perfect by default. If you create a plane, it will be perfect flat plane. If you create a box or a line, you will see that it is perfectly straight. But that is something not exists in real life. In real life, we always see objects that has imperfection. No plane or no surface is 100% flat. Um, on the walls of the concrete that we see in real life, they have imperfection. But when we create them in 3D, it is perfect by default, and that is the problem. That is the thing that um, that will makes our render very 3D, very artificial, and not looking natural. So one of the most important um, thing to consider when it comes to realistic material is imperfection. And I'm going to show you how. Okay, this is getting a little better, but it is still not good because the kind of textures here, the level of glossiness here is not reflecting what happens in real life. It is far from the reality, so it is still not looking good. You have to choose the correct form of imperfection. Okay, let's look at these curves. You can see that it is perfectly curvy and straight, and the color is 100% light gray with no variation. Um, Basically, they are very perfect. The grass is as well. The grass is very green and green on over the place. The green color doesn't change. Yeah, and that makes a very perfect look. Yeah. Not in a good way. Perfect, but not in a good way. If you look for that in a Google image, you can see that there are many example that show um, the difference. Because in real life you can see that the curves is not very smooth, but it looks much natural to our eyes. Yeah, let's do this. So imperfection always come along with the variation. Where variation can be understand sorry, um, we can understand the variation very um, simple. Um, Keep in mind that on a surface, there's no way we see them like the same all over the place. We can see, uh, we will see that there's some parts that darker and some parts that are brighter on the surface. It's never look the same, and that we can call that the variation, and it happens all the time. In diffuse, in reflection, in glossiness, we all have the variation. Let's take a look at this rendering. The one's paint here is kind of perfection and no variation at all. But if we look at this render, this render is much more delicate and subtle variation make it look very convincing, very natural look. It is very different from this example. Okay, and I can see that this problem often happens when it comes to exterior material. For example, this type white painted wall. I can see that there's small variation here, very subtle, but it is not enough because from the far distance we can see that it is kind of uh, like a solid color without any kind of textures or variation. This one looks better because we have some kind of licking and dirt and very subtle variation here, and it making the walls here looks better and more natural. So try to not make your walls or your exterior material like a solid color because that thing can easily kill your image. And I see a lot of that problem in my student rendering, in my uh, also in some of my intern rendering, and that is really not a good thing. That is something we should avoid. This ugly solid white wall is a very uh, popular problem. I can show you some reference. Yeah. The variation can be easily see or noticeable, like in this case, or it can be very subtle. Um, Depends on the case, but it should be there. Without variation, your materials look dead. Okay, but you have to be careful, and you need to control the level of variation because um, lacking of variation can make the material looks very flat and not realistic because it looks solid color. But too much of variation is also not a good thing. Look at this. We can see the upper part is lacking of variation, but this um, this is the upper part. I think I will come back with this image later. Um, in the next example, I will show you the variation in reflection and glossiness, and it really helps to create the look of the material. Um, yeah, you can see the details and the variation here, and it really contribute to the feeling of the materials. So if you are lacking of that, your walls and your ceilings and your floors will look much much more boring. Yeah, same here. Okay, so back to the overuse of variation. I will show you some example now, and you can see in this example the variation in I think that is a glossiness, make the walls look very dirty in not a good way, and the velvet here, I think the variation is also too much, and it look ugly. This one with the metal on the ceiling, pretty dirty, and this is also a dirty wall. So overuse of the variation is not good. So we have two level of when it comes to variation. The first level is very important that you understand you acknowledge about the variation, and you want to uh, want to add them in your rendering. That is the first level, and the second level is you know how to control the correct level of the variation, because too much of the variation can be a problem, as you can see in all of these reference. Yeah, take a look at this pretty dirty um, glass on the table, which is something that we don't like in real life and we don't like in real visualization. But this is a good example of using the variation. Yeah. A very subtle level. This is way too dirty, not good. This is not good as well. Okay, coming back with this image, you can see that the upper part is lacking a variation, but the lower part is way too dirty, and yeah, way too dirty. Okay. This example showing the lacking of variation in the reflection and glossiness. Okay. Okay. This is the reference. We can see that the render is lacking a variation in the floor, but uh, it has too much of variation on the walls compared to the reference. Okay, so understand about the importance of variation, but also need to control the balance and the level and um, the way the variance show up on your rendering is really important. But once you master that, once you know how to control that, you can make really subtle and really realistic material. This is again overuse. Okay, so the fourth mistake is relating to color, like not control very well the all the colors in the scenes, and let the series way too high. This is an example of using too high saturation. We can compare with the reference with a more um, yeah, let's compare the side by side so we can see this clearer. So we can see um, they are using the same kind of hue, but the saturation is different. Okay, pink color and the green color of the reference is less saturation compared to the rendering, and that create a different look between these two. In the reference, we can see that it's kind of more subtle, but in the rendering, it is kind of way too high and not so natural. The same thing happens here. You can see the red color on the wood column is kind of way too saturated. The same thing with the green leaves here. If you compare with the reference, you can see all the colors here is at a very subtle level and subtle color, and no colors are way too saturated. Okay. So we really need to control the colors in the scenes because the colors is always important when it comes to any kind of visual, not only rendering but photos or paintings. Color is very important. And basically, you need to understand the color theory and at least some kind of color. For example, you may want to go to Google and search for color theory. Okay. Understanding the color theory and color harmony is very important. So you know which color should goes together, the rules behind combining colors, and the way we should control the colors in the scene. Basically, in my rendering, I try to control the color so the saturation is not too much. This is the first thing, really basic. And the second thing, I usually control the hue of the color so that all the colors in the scenes, especially for the trees or for the decoration, I control so that the color is not so different. They will be in a harmony way. They combine with others, and they kind of similar tone. So yeah, it will create a more harmony and uh, and looking at the rendering, we have a more pleasant feeling. For example, with um, okay, when it comes to a rendering with a lot of trees, I try to control the colors of the trees so that the green color is only a small variation. I will show you some good example and bad example of this, because I see lots of rendering that people use a lot of trees from different assets library, and and they end up with very strange green color, like the hue is very different. And for example, this is not a good example of controlling the tree color. And you can see the color is kind of a mess here. Nothing is controlled, and the color harmony is not there, and it looks like a rendering from, or a drawing from a kid with way too many color. So that is a bad example, and I'm gonna show you a good example. Okay, this one you can see the harmony of colors of the trees and all the green stuff here. Okay, and you can notice the green colors, they pretty close to each other, and it only changed a little. Okay, and that easily create a harmony in your image. Okay, this one as well. Okay. You see the tone, the green tone here. Yeah, all the green colors, they only very small variation. So that is something related to controlling color and saturation. I hope that it has fun for you. Um, so we will not end up with something like this. Yeah, very bad control of color here. Okay, let's continue. Okay, the fifth mistake is related to the fabrics material. This is because fabrics is something special, and people often uh, has a wrong understanding about it, and they approach the fabrics material with a wrong way, and they end up with bad fabrics material. For example, this is a rendering, the colors, the lighting. You can see that it is not so bad. It's actually pretty good, but the fabrics is not there. You can see the fabrics here. It looks like clay, not fabrics. But in the reference, you can see that the fabric is so soft, so soft. But in the rendering, looks like clay. So what is the problem behind this? In the reference, you can see that the colors of fabrics, not the color, but the brightness of the fabrics, it changed along the direction. For example, if we look at the fabrics from the direct direction, from the direct angle, we can see that it is kind of darker. But other side of the um, rear angle, we can see it is kind of brighter. Okay, and this create the soft feeling of the fabrics. Okay, but in the rendering, we can see that um, we don't have that kind of transition in the rendering, in this rendering, because no matter angle that we look at, it looks like the same level of brightness. Okay, the same level of darkness of the textures here, and that makes all the pillows here looks like clay. Um, so the transition, the difference of brightness depends on the angle is a very specific and very special um, properties of the fabrics materials, and it also the secret of creating good fabrics material. Um, and the second thing when it comes to fabrics is 95% of the fabrics doesn't have reflection. So basically, when it comes to fabric material, you can set the reflection as 0, because for example, this one, if you apply reflection and glossiness to the fabrics, you can see that it kind of looks strange. For example, this is velvet, but it has some reflection and glossiness, and it looks like some mud. Yeah, it looks like some mud. Very strange. This one is lacking of phonon. So the transition that I told you earlier is can be recreated using the Phonops app. Um, okay, I'm going to show you a quick example. So I have a sofa here, and I'm going to show you some very basic thing about Phonops. Okay, it is a standard map. So if I use the solid color, you can see that this chair look like a clay material. But if I use Phonops, I will explain a little bit about the Phonops. We have the front map and the side map, and usually we set the front map as a dark color and the side map as a bright color. And the transition between the front and the side will be controlled by a mixed curve. If you want to learn more about the fabric materials, you can um, watch the video of the CORONATOR English course. I explain very carefully and in detail all of these things. Okay. So once you apply the Phonops, you can see the difference. It looks kind of softer because the transition. And if you look at the preview of the, yeah, you can see that the Phonops really helps um, to create the fabric look. Okay, so that is about the color. Now I will show you how to apply with the texture. So basically, we have a start texture, original texture, and we need to create two versions of that texture, one darker and one brighter. You can easily use gamma and color correction to do that. So one is darker and one is brighter. Make sure that um, they are a lot different in terms of brightness and gamma. Because if you make them look pretty much the same, then the effect is not cannot be seen. Okay, so the dark will go to map 1 and the bright will go to map 2, and we have the Phonops. And we can assign to diffuse. Okay. Okay, here I change the lighting a little bit. I also change the textures, the original texture. Okay, here we go. As you can see that the chairs look much softer now, much more like fabric objects. And one important thing when it comes to Phonops is a mix curve. The mix curve will control the transition and will help you to create different kind of fabrics. For example, if you want to create typical fabrics, you can change the mix curve pretty basically, But if you want to create something like velvet, you need to make it a bit more complex like this. Okay. Again, all of these are explained very well in the course, so you can rewatch the video. Okay, it's pretty good. And you can also use a mix cup to create something special like the silk. For example, I have a dark color and a bright blue color, and I create a mix cup here, a pretty special mix cup. Yeah, and you can see we have very bright and shiny look of the silk without having to touch any reflection and or glossiness thing. And to be clear, I don't invented this method. You can search for Viscobel. This is something that I learned from Viscobel. Yeah, and I think that his tutorial about materials is kind of the foundation for many artists. Okay, coming up with the next mistake, that is about the bump and displacement. And I noticed that a lot of people tend to make too strong bump or displacement, and that can also kill your image. Okay. Look at this table. You can see that the bump is pretty annoying here because it is weight not too much but a little bit stronger than usual. And in contrast, lacking a bump or displacement can also be a bad thing. And you can see it makes all the bricks here looks like wallpaper. This is another example of using too strong bump displacement. Uh, yeah, you can see on the fabrics the wrinkles may be too strong, and in this leather the scratch is also too strong. All of that will destroy the natural look of the material. And this concrete looks like the bump is a little bit too much. Same here. This small bump is not natural. And sometimes we use too high level bump or displacement. Yeah. Okay. So we need to really observe and relate to real life if we want to execute a good level of bump or displacement on our material. It needs you to observe, maybe not just look at the material, but touch them, so you really can feel and can tell how much bump or displacement is necessary. The next mistake is about reflection and glossiness. I don't know how to emphasize more about the importance of reflection and glossiness. Uh, think about black and white photos. we can really tell a good photo or a realistic material, even if we change them to black and white. This also means that the reflection and glossiness is something really important to the look of the material, maybe even more important than the diffuse, because the reflection and glossiness can really tell the feeling of the materials. It is shiny, glossy, or matte, or rough. It all comes to reflection and glossiness. So the mistake that most people make when it comes to reflection and glossiness is they using too much of them or too little of them. I will show you uh, the example. So sometimes we are lacking of reflection and glossiness. For example, this one. This is the reference. You can see a good amount of reflection and glossiness on the floor, the walls, the concrete, and the wood sculptures here. But in the rendering, yeah, this is the rendering, and you can see that it is kind of lacking on the reflection and glossiness, and it makes the rendering looks look fake. In this case, it is way too much of reflection and glossiness on the floor, but lacking of reflection and glossiness um, on the wood walls here. You can tell that because the fractional reflection. So usually when we look at an object, no matter metal or wood, if we look at that from the direct angle, we can see um, like it not so much reflection or glossiness, but from the far angle, we start to see that the reflection and glossiness increasing, and at the very far angle, we can see that it is very reflective and very glossy. I don't know if I can show you example here. Okay, I think this can work. Okay, so from this angle, this is direct angle, right? You can see that it is not so reflective or glossy, but from the far angle, notice the um, area that around my finger. You can see from the far angle, it starts to look much more uh, reflective and glossy. But from the direct angle, look at the area that close to the camera, that close to you. You can see that it looks not so much reflective. But from the far angle, the area around my finger, you can see that it is very reflective and glossy. Okay, so this is basic things about reflection and glossiness. Um, that's called fractional reflection. And once you you understand this, it can help you to really feel the material, especially for reflection and glossiness, and help you to understand which is a good amount of reflection or glossiness. Okay. Okay. Another example of fractional reflection. This angle, no, uh, seems like no reflection at all, but from the far angle, we start to see it clearer and stronger. So the whole area here is a lacking of reflection and glossiness. Look at this metal. In the reference here, you can see that it is pretty reflect and glossy. Not so glossy, but it has reflection. But in this membrane, we can see no, looks like no reflection or glossiness at all. And same for the whole image. Okay. I'm gonna show you how to uh, to control the level of reflection and glossiness in Corona in a correct way. So basically, I have this wood material applied to the chair, and I suggest you that um, we shouldn't care too much about the logic here. Just focus on the glossiness and the reflection. So basically, I will create a deceleration of the diffuse texture, set the reflection levels at 1, and plug this black and white texture in the reflection color. And this is also the reason why uh, people often makes the material lacking too much of reflection, because usually when we convert the diffuse texture to a black and white texture and put them into the reflection color, you can see that the black and white textures is kind of dark, and you understand that the reflection, it works like this. Darker means lesser reflection, and brighter means higher level of reflection. Um, and from the version 1.6, Corona has developed the material so that basically for the reflection color, you need to set the color or the number, um, the color of the texture that is almost white before you put them into the reflection color, almost white. Okay, so this color correction needs to be adjusted so that we have a close to white texture here. Okay, okay. So you can easily change the gamma to 5, something like that, and you have a good amount of reflection. And all you need to do is to adjust the glossiness accordingly. Okay, so the one is when the reflection texture too dark and the material lacking a reflection. Okay, and we need to make it much wider like this. Yeah. And you can adjust the glossiness by number or by texture. Yeah. Okay, mistake number 8 is the related to the quality of the texture. Think about this: the quality textures when the quality of the textures will define the quality of the materials. So try to select and choose the best textures for your scenes, for your materials. For example, this is not a good example of choosing the texture. This texture is not appropriate for the materials here. It is way too dark. Sorry, not dark, but contrast, and not a good choice here. And I see a lot of branding like this. People want to have some kind of concrete with variation, but they choose way too contrast texture, and they end up with something really ugly, um, in my opinion. Yeah, way too contrast, which is something that we rarely see in real life. The next examples is about the wood textures, especially the wood grain. You can see on the left side the reference. The wood grain is something pretty unique and special type wood grain. It's a specific type wood, but in the reference, it looked like some industrial and artificial kind of wood. And I think the wood grain really defines the quality of the wood and the level of uh, what to say, the quality of the wood, the level of I don't know what to say, the design or the luxury look. Okay, so if you choose the wrong kind of wood texture, you really um, lose the uh, the necessary look of the design. For example, some wood grain are for luxury space, luxury design, and some wood grain is for low budget design or medium budget project. So the way you choose and the way you use wood grain can help the design or harm the design. So whatever you choose carefully. Okay. The quality of textures also comes with the resolution. For example, in this case, we see pretty low resolution the concrete and pretty low resolution of the wood textures here. Super low resolution of the wood textures here. Like terrible. This carpet as well. Another thing when it comes to bad textures is some textures with too much of contrast. It can be big texture with really good details, but um, it is under too much of post contrast. So it's really nice if you look at it separately, but when you cannot use for your rendering because uh, the contrast is too much. Okay. We have the mistake number 9 here, but it is quite similar to mistake number 1. This is about the wrong scale of the texture. Yeah, my advice is to really observe in real life and compare with your render, or at least go to Google and do some research before you apply any kind of textures on your objects, especially um, when it comes to some projects and the client sent you some material sample and you have no idea about that material. So that is when you need to do your homework, you need to do your research. Go to Google and search for that kind of material and specifically the size and scale of that materials in real life. So you have a good information about how big it should look in your rendering. For example, this is way too big, I think, and it can easily kill your rendering. Okay, so last but not least, the 10 mistake is about uh, how you create the material. So I see a lot of people, they post um, the screenshot of their material creation and they look very complex and they kind of proud about that, and I don't see that is a good thing. Maybe just for fun, but when it comes to what we want to keep the material as simple as possible. We don't want to deal with a very complex material that we don't know what is the main part and what is necessary and what is not. You don't want to end up with a mess. You want it to be as simple as possible so you can easily access, you can easily manage, and you can easily control it. Not something like this. If I pick a material from the material from the asset library, and I see this kind of structure, I will kind of delete them and and remake the material. It will be way faster than go all the way through this structure and try to figure out where should I change if I want to modify the materials. For example, this kind of structure is more than enough for a simple wood material like this. I don't see this is necessary. Um, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And it can be, but yeah, I don't think wood texture or wood material need too much of notes like this. But still, there's some special case that you have to add more things on the top of the material to make it uh, the right look that you want. But yeah, overall, try to limit that. Try to basically uh, keep the simplicity of your scenes, your material, of your lighting, and you will work much faster and more efficient. And people work with you and love you when they open your files. Okay. Now I will show you. Okay, so the first part of the live session today is I think is finished. Basically 10 different uh, common mistake that people often make when it comes to material creation. I will check if you guys still watch the live stream, and if you need to ask some question, this is the time. Okay, okay. Okay, I see some question here, but I don't understand the context of this question. Because Ben asked, would that work with the marble texture? I don't know what you are relating to. Massimo asked, which one is the right side of the map? Without context, it's really hard to understand what you mean. So can you ask again more specifically? The UVW randomizer, yes, it works with the marble textures also. Yes, I think the UVW randomizer works with pretty much any kind of texture, no problem. Okay, since we also have something. Okay, I will back with the videos and continue with a different part of this live session. I want to show you very quickly the structure of material that I often use. That is fast and very efficient and can help you to create good realistic material. So the idea of creating a good structure of material that can be used again and again for other kind of material, that you only need to change the textures, is a good start, because if we have something like that, we can easily uh, create material for the whole scenes in a very short time. And I'm gonna show you. So coming back with the uh, wood material here, I create another copy and then plug it into the reflection glossiness and change the gamma contrast and put that to bump as well. For Corona bump, I often limit the bump to 0.1, which is I think good enough because the Corona bump is very strong compared to V-Ray. Okay, so this is the structure of material creation that I often use. You can see that um, it looks pretty good. If I want to change the glossiness, I can change the brightness of the textures here. But overall, it looks, I think it looks good. And you can see that the structure is very simple because it comes from only one texture, one starting texture. So if you want to change the material, you only need to change the original texture. For example, this one. Okay. Yeah. And you have another wood material without having to set up the whole structure again. You just need to copy and change the original textures and that very easily and very fast. Okay. And basically, I think that structure can work with for like 80% of the material in your scene, literally. And think about that. If you can create like 2, 3 material structure that you often use, then and you can repeat them for all the material in the scene, you can see that the speed of creating material will be raising uh, in a unimaginable way. Okay, so that is the second part of this live session. The first part is on the 10 common mistakes, and the second part is on the uh, best formula for fast and good material. Uh, okay, I think that would have. Now come back with your homework. Let's come back with your homework. Let's come back with your homework. Okay, so this is material homework that I received uh, today. Let's take a look. Okay, since you guys already watched and learned about 10 common mistakes, I think that you can start looking at your renderings and then do some self feedbacks. Like you can um, look at your rendering and figure out yourself what kind of mistake that you may have in your renderings. For example, this is a uh, rendering. I need to compare this with the reference. Wow. Okay, we have the reference on the left and the rendering on the side. So let's compare these and try to find the mistake. Basically, okay. So the first thing that I noticed is the wood textures here, and I can say that the wood texture that you choose is not the same level of quality and same level of standard as the reference. Okay, the kind of wood in the reference look uh, pretty special. Yeah, looks pretty special. And if you look a bit closer, you can see that there's some variation on the wood material. It comes from the diffuse, it comes from the reflection and glossiness as well. Okay, look at this. The wood grain really affects the variation of glossiness, and we can see in the diffuse some areas with a different colors or different wood grains than the other parts. Okay, so the first problem is about the texture choosing, and the second problem is about the variation. If you look at this stair, you can see a lot of variation here, but in your rendering, uh, I think you also have some variation, but it is maybe not enough. Okay, the variation on the bricks here as well in revision. In the reference, you can see that we have some kind of marks here, some kind of dust here, and it makes a really nice and rich brick texture. But in your rendering, it looked pretty perfect and flat and lacking of variation. The kind of dirt or black and white texture that you use for the reflection and glossiness here is, I think, not as good as in the reference. It's not the same kind of texture, I think. So check again about the variation. It can really make a difference. Okay. The next problem that I noticed is about the reflection and glossiness. As I mentioned above, um, the reflection is fractional, which means, um, as you can see in the reference, if we look at the floor at the direct angle, it looks not so reflective, but from the far angle, you can see that it is very, very reflective and very, very glossy. But in your rendering, it looks like um, the same level of reflection and glossiness. So the tips here that I want you to try is to use phono for the reflection and for the glossiness, and I think that will help you to create this kind of effects. So because basically the phone can help you uh, to have a different version of the texture uh, when you look at it in the fun way, and a different version of that texture when you look at the object from the sideway. Okay, so I think a phone in reflection and glossiness will help you to create this kind of effects. Okay. Low reflection and glossiness at the direct angle and high level of reflection and glossiness at the far angle. Okay. Now let's compare. So many windows. Okay. Okay, again, the problem of texture choosing for the wood texture, and I think also for the marble texture, because the marble here you can see the veins very clearly, but in your rendering, I think for the top part of the counter, we we no longer see the veins. I don't know what is the problem, but yeah, maybe because of reflection on glossiness. But for the diffuse, I still think that there are some certain level of difference in terms of texture quality, texture chosen here between this one. Okay, and okay, maybe if we look at the floor, we need to raise the reflection and glossiness, because from this reference it is quite more uh, reflective and glossy than I thought. And for the black metal here, I know that we maybe you haven't seen um, the metal material videos, but for the metal you want to increase the IOR. That will make stronger highlights for, and that is the properties of metal material. So we always increase the IOR when it comes to metal. Okay. Yeah. The wood texture for the, okay. Notice the UV and the wood texture here in the reference. We are having some difference here in terms of texture chosen, in terms of UV, and in terms of reflection and glossiness. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so again, this is the reference. We will compare with the rendering here. Okay, so I think again we have the problem of texture chosen here for the concrete. This kind of concrete is pretty specific and pretty pretty special. But in your rendering, the concrete texture looks pretty flat and blurry. Yeah, so you need to choose a better texture from the concrete. For the grass, I think you are using some kind of mega scan, but it is lacking a bump or displacement, so it looks very flat like a fake grass. So not a good thing here. In terms of variation, we can see some kind of licking uh, in a vertical way, that is the dropping down from the top of the concrete here, and also from the edge here. Okay. It is spreading in a vertical way. Okay, and it seems to me that your walls here also lacking a displacement. I can see that the stone is a very, you can see that is it needs some displacement. Okay, let's continue. I think your lighting is good. Just some let's now focus on the materials and make it better. I think for the grass you need to use forest, because this mega scan doesn't work here. It still look very flat. Focus on making better and much more uh, convincing concrete material. I think you need to choose better texture and do your homework about the variation, all of the variation here. Okay. Okay. I think the texture that you are choosing in this one is good. Um, the wood here is very good, very close to the reference. Um, the marbles is good as well. Maybe the direction of the marbles is need to change, because as you can see here, it is kind of having a joint here. So the upper part is following the horizontal way, and this side part is vertical. This side is horizontal again. So yeah, if we look closer, we can see that this texture is nicer than this one. If we look at this side, this one is not close to this in terms of texture quality. Okay, you really need to choose again the texture for the floor, wood floor, in terms of color and um, the wood grain. Okay, remember that the quality of textures will define the quality of materials. So choose the textures wise and spend time to choose good texture. Okay, so move on with the level of reflection and glossiness. I think that for the floor you are lacking of reflection and glossiness. You are lacking of all of these, all of these, all of these. Basically, your floor looks like no reflection of glossiness at all. but the same for the wooden bar chairs is as well, really lacking of reflection and glossiness if you compare this. And also the kind of texture and UV need to be reconsidered. Okay. Okay, from this side, I think the texture need to choose again. Okay, not good, not at the same level. The wood floor as well. Um, just like in the previous rendering, the wood floor is lacking of reflection and glossiness. Okay. Okay, so yeah. So as you already learned about the fast structure of material creation that I show you today, I hope that you will and you can speed up your material creation. And the next homework will be something like the whole scene, full material applied. So we have a lot more to comment and feedbacks to improve. Okay. So the homework today is the same. Apply the material in your scene as much as possible. Try to cover the whole scene and render some full shot uh, and try to avoid all the mistake that we learned today. Okay, so that is the homework today. And now I will see if someone is asking question. Can you make any rough stone texture? I don't think that we make texture. We only find texture. For the rough stone texture, you want to go for maybe our way texture. They have some great collection with very high quality of rock stone. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Stonework Volume 1. I think they have maybe 2 volume for those stonework that you can try. Or you can go to picture.com. Yeah, and go to 3D scan material. You will find also a lot of good quality stone texture. Yeah, because they are scan material, they will have the top quality. Okay, the displacement texture is really top quality. Okay, next question. Corona bitmap over bitmap for HDR. Yeah, because we are rendering using Corona, so I suggest MD. developers also suggest to use Corona bitmap. And also, you need to plug the Corona bitmap into the Corona color correction, which have a lot of option to tweak the HDI in the way you want to achieve the look that you need. Okay. Yeah, I think that the problem of the UV on the roof, you can easily use a technique that I showed you earlier using UVW randomizer, and you can um, fix it pretty easily. Apart from that, I think the wood planks here look good. Um, Maybe you need to rework the fabrics materials here. Uh, there's not so much left to comment beside the roof and the fabrics here. So again, try to finish the materials in your whole scenes, render a couple more complete shots, and then upload it back on the group. I will uh, so I can give you more feedbacks. Who was the person to look up about the material you mentioned? Ah, that is Visco Bell. He deserves the credit here. Sorry for misspelling. Visco Bell. Yeah, Visco Bell. He used to produce a lot of tutorials, but now and he wrote a lot of blog here. And I think his tutorials about materials and other kind of stuff is the foundation of a lot of artists. I also learned a lot from him, so he really deserve some kind of credit here. For leakage imperfection in concrete, would that be part of the diffuse? Yeah, absolutely. The imperfection can come from diffuse reflection and glossiness. Okay, any other question? I think the videos, sorry, the live session is already pretty long, so I need to end it up here. So, uh, yeah, I think the important thing about the materials is you need to observe in real life, or at least Google and look at the reference, and always um, try to have chance to interact with the material, the real material in real life, starting with something around you, like the table that you you have in your room, all of the stuff that you can touch. Okay, and look at them and analyze them in a different aspect, like what is their diffuse, what is important or special about their reflection and glossiness, and try to apply all that you learn from this course to and and test them in real life. Okay, I think that is the way that you can practice materials and um, and quickly have uh, some kind of instinct, some kind of feelings when it comes to materials. So that is very important. Uh, yeah, once you have the feelings of material, you will know that what is the correct level of all of the stuff, of the scale, of the reflection, of the glossiness, of the variation, how it's when how it should look, how it would look like. Yeah, and I think that is the most important thing when it comes to material. You need to develop your sense of material, and once you have that, it is much more easier for you to create any kind of material. Okay, I think that the video is it's good to end here. So uh, bye bye guys. See you in the next live session. I hope you enjoyed the live stream today. Bye. Cheers. End stream.